During a karaoke night at the Willow, I sang Purple Rain by Prince, then Blue by Eiffel 65. Then I sang It's Now or Never by Elvis Presley. Then I sang Yellow by Coldplay. Then I sang Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. And then finally I sang That's Amore by Dean Martin. And my first impression when I walked into the Willow around 6 p.m. was that it had completely changed. But in reality, it hadn't completely changed. It just seemed like it completely changed because the furniture and its layout had been changed. So in a sense, it had a new look. I sat towards the end of a long table made by connecting a few tables perpendicular to the bar area with some distance but not too much distance to the bar itself. The bar was horizontal and while the long table was vertical. The tables had the Willow's new logo under their new management all on them. Pretty much right away, I got a garbage plate from the bar area. The garbage plates seem to have improved under the Willow's new management. It came with onions, meat hot sauce, got it with cheeseburgers, fries, mac salad. There was supposedly some mustard, though I couldn't really see it. Put a good amount of ketchup on it. For alcoholic beverages, all I got was for the first beverage, my only real beverage, I asked for a Bloody Mary, got one, made it spicy, which added some good flavor to it. And a come and screw shot around 9:45 p.m. towards the very end of the karaoke night, which ended at 10 p.m. Between those, I had a couple to a few plastic glasses of iced water. While at the Willow Inn, I worked on Beaker by essentially coloring in his hands and the front of his lab coat after doing the right side of his lab coat, which I did after I colored in the hands. This essentially took me a majority of the time I was there at the Willow Inn, roughly from 6 to 10 p.m., though of course I had the 6 songs I sang, creating and then uploading yesterday's My Dinner video, and eating the garbage plate mixed in with that time, so that's why I said just a majority of the time. I had to take a little breaks after going for about 30 to 60 seconds. The little breaks of about a minute in order to both keep the marker from drying out and to rest my hand. Prior to going to the Willow Inn, I tried on a suit for an upcoming family event in order to determine, I think this was around noon, maybe a little earlier, but I tried on a suit, a pair of suit pants, dress pants I think they're technically called, a suit jacket or two, in order to determine what the best suit would be. And ultimately, though, that kind of became irrelevant, as it was decided that it would essentially be fine to go in basically a pair of dress pants and a nice shirt with a tie. Some days before, Mom got me a new belt, and it was delivered to us today. Sometime before we went to the Willow. In the time before we went to the Willow, I essentially finished the details of Beaker's lab coat, which essentially leaves me done with most of the details For Beaker, all I have left to do at this point are his plaid shorts. Though before I do the shorts, I should probably do his shoes first, as they're the kind of shoes with laces. I recall at some point, maybe around noon, the early afternoon, I had this meal that essentially consisted of one of the pre-hard-boiled eggs from a pack Mom got at Wegmans a while back. Some of the Red Rocket or Red Rocker espresso Jolt candy, and something else that I'm not entirely sure of at this time, before I even had the hard-boiled egg. Maybe it was left. It was what was left of that silo. And after I broke most of it off at an earlier point, I do recall having a good amount of gingerbread during the morning hours, with a glass of milk very similar to this one, only that it may have been in a plastic glass and not a glass. A milk and cookies sort of thing. And no, generally when I did that, the frosting wasn't a problem for me. Though while I was working on Beaker before we went to the Willow, and I ended up breaking into the ultimate collection of Sharpie markers that I got for Christmas, because I had to get a replacement I think it's called a teal or medium hue of green Sharpie marker, ultrafine, because the initial one I was working with that day, today, I got a sense that it was defective because it seemed to leak. Thankfully not much onto the beaker drawing itself, though it did bleed noticeably more than an ultrafine should towards the end. At the time I made the decision it was defective in some way and that I shouldn't use it. Maybe it's because I squeezed it too much while I was taking the cap on and off because I initially had a hard time taking the cap off of it for that particular one. I'll try to keep in mind to be careful when taking the cap on and off in the future for Sharpie markers.